I'd like to welcome everybody here today. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to have everybody please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And praise that flag. We do have some guests here today. A couple of them couldn't make it, but I know one would be here. He's never missed us. That's our mayor, Pat Moeller. Pat has probably done more for the veterans in Hamilton than anyone I ever know of. And I mean, he's a firm believer in our group. And anytime when I get something done, I can always pick up the phone and he'll be available. Let's see. Della, our secretary, come down ill just this morning, and Della has been really my right arm. She has done so much for our group. Her husband served in the Signal Corps in World War II, and Lino Boggs, and but I think she'd probably come down and something didn't feel good. My left arm just walked in the door, Karen Lowry. Karen has done tremendous for our group. When I want to get some advertising done, I just stick my head in the door and it's done. And we really appreciate that, Karen. Steve was supposed to be here. I guess he's tied up in a meeting. Yeah. And Steve has done wonders, our president. Let's see. Yeah, we still got a few faces here. Yeah. I'll tell you, that gentleman back there with that TV camera has really been an inspiration to our group. He's got our name on there 3 or 4 times a week, and I've had phone calls and saying how terrific. And I think a lot of people don't realize that TV Hamilton, as far as I'm concerned, I like it better than WLW. I think they hit the nail on the head. They interview the people who need to be interviewed. Well, that's for our speakers today. We got 2, as far as I'm concerned, 2 of the finest on our school board. They have others on there, but these 2 have really put the time and effort, and they must love it, to be on there that long. Glenn Stitzker is a lifelong resident of Hamilton. He graduated from Hamilton High and Ohio State University College of Dentistry. After graduation, Dr. Stitzker entered the United States Army and served 1 tour of Vietnam. He was in private practice in Hamilton for 36 years. He has been a member of the Board of Education since my good eyesight, 66, and is currently serving as president for the 8th time. He is a board representative on the district faculty committee, was instrumental in securing the funding and was part of the design review and construction oversight during the building of 10 new schools and the complete renovation of 2 others. Active in the community, he is a member and past president of the Hamilton Rotary, president TV Hamilton Board, and member of the Hamilton School Parks. And I really feel that here's one man, and of course George, really love Hamilton. Vice President George Johnson, who I've known since 1960. His wife Sophie, 3 children. He's a graduate of Hamilton High School, another Ohio State graduate, and the University of Cincinnati College of Law. He served 3 years in the U.S. Air Force and was a judge advocate officer and practiced Hamilton law since 1962. In 1963, he was elected to Hamilton City Council and served 10 years. Elected to the Board of Education in 1981, he has served continually since that time and has served as president 7 times. Active in the community, he is a member of Hamilton Rotary and past president. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our 2 speakers. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Howard. It's our pleasure to be here today and to be able to speak to veterans who have done so much for our country and should always be remembered. And I'm very happy to be back at Partners in Prime. I spent 7 years on the board here, and I know this is an organization that does so much good in this community in so many different ways, from Meals on Wheels to all the activities here. This is an organization that I was very, very proud to be on the board and a lifetime member of this club. Well, we're here today to give you a report on the Hamilton City Schools 2013. George is going to begin and talk about our facilities, which we are very, very proud of, where we started and where we are today. So, George?
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk with you about education in the 21st century. It's hard to believe. As I was telling Glenn when I started school, and a lot of you did, in the 1st grade, we learned to spell cat and dog and things like that. Today, 3- and 4-year-olds are operating smartphones and iPads, and it's just a different age, and we have to deal with it. But from the early 80s, when we took office, things have changed drastically in this district. At that time, the Board of Education had not had any increase in funds since 1969. To make the budget balance, cutbacks were made on maintenance and things like that, and our schools were not kept in good shape. But we took the attitude that the least you could do is keep the buildings clean, and we could paint them and do what we could. In addition, we were getting over a bitter strike, which lasted too long. And so we worked to better relations with our employee groups, especially our teachers. In 1986, after Dr. Stitzinger took office, we decided time was here to do something about our facilities. And with the help of our citizens, we were able to pass a operating levy. And in that operating levy, we dedicated 75% to fixing up our buildings. By fixing up our buildings, I'm talking about replacing boilers, replacing windows that didn't work, things like that, and buying textbooks. You know, when I was at Ohio State, I had a professor that told us, someday man will walk on the moon. And I said, what? Well, in the 60s, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. But in 1986, we had textbooks that said, someday man will walk on the moon. That's how far behind we were. And we dedicated ourselves to providing modern, up-to-date textbooks for our students. And we accomplished that. So we made a lot of headway, and our relationship with our employee groups improved. You know, we had buildings, the Jefferson Annex was built in the 19th century. Lincoln was built right after the turn into the 20th century. And at the same time, we looked around, and other districts were growing, were building new buildings, more modern, up to date, and we felt we had to do something to improve our facilities. So in the mid-90s, we asked our architects to study our buildings and tell us what it would take to get these buildings up to date, make additions, air condition them. And they came back with a figure of $250 million. And we said, there's no way we can pass a levy like that or a bond issue. So in 1999, we had a fire at Wilson in the art room. And Mrs. Carruthers, and I'm sure you're all familiar with Pat and Donna's gone now, but they were, and Pat still is, a patron of the arts. And so when Donna came over to Wilson to see the art room that had been destroyed, she was shocked to find there was one room dedicated to band, music, chorus, what have you. And she said, we can't have that. So they made a donation of $750,000 to build a fine arts wing after the building had been cleared of smoke, things like that. And the community really rallied around the schools. And so our superintendent felt it was a good time to go to the voters to see if we could do something about our buildings. So in 1999, in May, we were able to pass a $4.4 million bond issue. And with that, we plan to remodel Hamilton High School, Garfield, build a new freshman building, and put some additions onto other buildings. Well, lo and behold, after that bond issue passed, the state of Ohio came up with this Ohio School Facilities Plan. That was a result of the tobacco settlement that had gone on all over the country. And the state of Ohio decided to use a big chunk of that money to fund improvement of facilities in school districts throughout the state. Through Greg Jolivet's help, we were able to get legislation passed to include the bond issue that we had passed in '99 as part of the school facilities match that we would have to make. As it turns out, we had to provide 41% of the funds, and the state would provide 59%. However, the big task was to move up on the waiting list because they were ranked by wealth of the school district and things like that, and we were way down on the list. And I know we made a number of trips to Columbus, Dr. Stitzinger, Larry Bowling, myself, trying to lobby the Facilities Commission to move us up. Well, in the meantime, the state came down and studied our facilities. They brought architects and engineers down and studied every school. And the formula was that if the cost of remodeling your buildings exceeded 2/3 of the replacement cost, we had to replace the buildings. Only 2 buildings, Hamilton High and Garfield, met that test, that they felt that it would not exceed 2/3 of the cost of remodeling. So we started off on a plan and studying buildings. We made trips to Springfield, Lima, London, Ohio, Monroe, Middletown, Dayton, Springfield, looking at buildings that were being built now, determining what we liked and what we didn't like. And that was a real eye-opener. And still waiting to move up on that list. Well, finally, in 2006, the state said, it's your turn, but you have to provide more funds. So in November of 2006, the citizens of Hamilton stepped up, and we passed a 4.9 mil bond issue so that we could start building these buildings. Now, a $500,000 of that is a maintenance fund for our buildings. The state said you have to do that so that you've got these new buildings, but you have to have the funds to take care of them. And Dr. Stitzinger will talk about our plan for that. So, 14 years after we started on this journey, we have 8 new elementary buildings. We have a new freshman building. We have a practically new Wilson. The only thing that's left was what the Carruthers had donated and the media center, which we built. Hamilton High School is like a brand new building, and so is Garfield. So today, instead of looking enviably at other districts, they look at us now. We not only built building and facilities for our students and our staff, but we provided the technology that they need in this day. You're all well aware of technology and what it means. You see these kids just, I've tried a smartphone 3 times and I just can't hit those keys. I don't know how they do it. But a teacher told me a kid can text with the phone in his pocket. I don't know how you do that, but I'm not smart enough to do that. But anyway, we have provided the facilities that we need for our students and our teachers, and it's something to make Hamilton proud. And we are so thankful to the citizens of Hamilton for what they've provided for our students. Thank you. Glenn?
Well, as George said, it was a journey. It was a journey that started with our Facilities Commission and committee about 12 years ago. And as we designed the schools and thought about how we're going to do this, we laid a budget out. And we made a promise to the voters of Hamilton, the citizens of Hamilton, that we would construct these buildings, get them finished on time, and get them finished under budget. And it was a challenge because the first buildings, the first 4 elementaries, were built and opened in 1990 or 2009, which was we started just at the peak of the building boom. So those buildings cost a little bit more than the rest of them, and luckily or unluckily for this country, with the housing market going down, things got better. So we have finished these buildings. They were on time and under budget. We do have some money left, a little money left in the bond issue, which we are going to use to build a new bus and maintenance complex. That one we're using now was built right after World War II, and it's in badly need of repair. So we are very proud of these buildings. And as George mentioned, the thing that was important to us once we completed the buildings was to have a plan to take care of those buildings. A plan not just getting them painted or when a faucet breaks or something like that, but to have money set aside for things that come up that you normally wouldn't have money for. And we have a 5-year maintenance plan where things are supposed to be done at a certain time in a certain year to maintain these buildings in the same condition that they are today. We've approved that plan. It's well underway. It's completely funded, and we are confident that we will continue to maintain these buildings so that you will all be proud of them. As George mentioned, 1969, there was an operating levy passed. I came on the board in 1986, and we passed a second operating levy. and then we passed an operating levy in 1993. We have not asked the voters for any more money for operations since 1993. There are very few school districts in this state that can say that. Very, very few. I think you probably could count them on one hand. That's 20 years without asking for any more money to operate our schools. And we do not believe that in the next 2 years, at a minimum, we be asking voters for any more money, and probably beyond that. How have we been able to run our schools in that manner when surrounding school districts every 3 or 4 or 5 years are running operating levies? Well, we're very careful with how we spend our money. And we think there are some things more important than others. We also project each year. Our treasurer gives us a 5-year projection on what he thinks is going to happen financially in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We always look 2 or 3 years in advance. And if we see a negative balance occurring, or we see a problem occurring, we address that now, making smaller reductions that don't impact instruction. And that is one of the ways that we have been able to stay off the ballot for all these years. And yes, we did pass, you, the taxpayers, and all of us, we passed 2 bond issues. And because of those bond issues, the state of Ohio originally was going to give us $120 million. It's going to be about $130 before it's all done. And we think that was certainly worthwhile, because if that money didn't come to Hamilton, it was going somewhere else. This is how we're funded. The state of Ohio, we get about 63.4% of the dollars that come to operate our school district from the state of Ohio. The federal government, federal programs, 13.4%, and locally 23.1%. So we are heavily dependent on the state. We're pretty much the reverse of the surrounding districts around here. Most of their operating dollars are locally, but most of ours come from the state. People ask, well, how do we spend the tax? How do we spend the money that we've been given? And these are some figures that I think we're all very proud of. Instruction, that's the classroom. That's the teacher in the classroom with the student. That's the most important thing in education, is the individual teacher in the individual classroom. We spend the most of any school district on instruction in this county. If you look at administration, we spend the least amount of money of any school district in this county. The other 2 categories, pupil support, that's things like nurses, counselors, psychologists, things like that. Staff support, that's for training for teachers, professional development, programs like that. And finally, building operations, that includes utilities, maintenance, gas to run things. So it's a combination of a lot of things. So we're and this is, when you add all those together, we are still spending far less than the state average per pupil. These numbers are all per pupil. So we believe that we're going to help the students in Hamilton by putting money in the classroom. And over the years, our focus has been instruction, because we feel that there's nothing more important, and that's where our dollars should go. George is going to talk about safety and security. This has been all over the news, in the last year, if you remember Sandy Hook and that terrible incident in Connecticut. And we wanted to, we always look every year at our safety and security, always looking about how what we should be doing. This year, I think we took a little extra look at it and came up with some new programs, and George's going to talk about that.
Well, we've always tried to maintain safe and secure buildings, but after the incident in Connecticut, we appointed a safety committee of administrators and teachers to look at our safety program. One thing that came out of it was, starting this year, we require let's go back. When we built the new buildings, they all had buzzer systems where after the kids come in, all the doors are locked automatically. And to get in the building, you have to go to the one door, push a button, they look at you and see who you are, and then they buzz you in. Now we've taken the further step that when you come into the office, your picture is taken and you are given a badge with your picture on it when you enter the building. Now, there's been talk about having armed officers in the buildings. We have talked with our police department, with Chief Scrumisi, with officers that work in our schools, and they are highly opposed to that. The main thing is to have a plan, if something happens, what to do. And they've started a new program. Instead of just laying there, if someone were to come into a building, you run, you fight, or you hide, but you just don't sit there and be a victim. But the main thing is to not let people in your building that don't belong there. So that's what we've done along safety lines. But we feel pretty good about the fact that to get in the building, you have to be identified and state what your purpose is.
Let me talk just a little bit about the district and how it's growing. In 2005, we had a little over 9,000 students in our district. Last year, the year in 2012-13, we had 9,556, and we are projecting that this year, the year we're starting, that our enrollment will be increasing again. So a lot of suburban districts and a lot of inner city districts are losing students. We have been gaining students. And I think we've been gaining students for a lot of reasons. One, we have an outstanding character program. We were named the 2012 School Character of the Year award. We have outstanding programs for students, all students, including at our high school. We are a comprehensive high school, so we have a job center where they're not really vocational classes anymore. They're more high-tech than that. But it's a career center, and you take courses that will lead either to going on to a two-year school or getting a job when you leave high school. And we have an outstanding college prep and honors program, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So of the students that we have in our district, it might surprise you that 71.9% of those students last year were on free and reduced lunch. 70% of those students live in poverty. Special education, we have 14.6% of the students in Hamilton are special education students. They require a lot of extra help, and deservedly so. And we also have ESL students. That's students who come to us not speaking or speaking very little English, and that makes up 15.5%. These are some of the things in academic that we are very, very proud of. First of all, Mariah Craft was a National Merit Scholar last year, the only one in Butler County to receive that honor. She is going next year to New York University, and I think she's going to be in pre-med. These are examples of the universities that our students are attending and next year. An example: Duke, IU, OSU, UK, Miami, Oxford. Now, George and I think OSU ought to be at the top of that list. This is another new program. We're working with students starting in the 9th grade, getting them ready for whatever life takes them after high school, whether it be to the workforce, whether it be to a 2-year school, whether it would be to college. Our test scores this year, and they'll be released, I believe, Thursday, in our 4th, 8th, and 10th grade are the highest scores ever in reading. We are always wanting to improve. You know, we always look for ways to improve instruction, improve learning, and I think ultimately, as years go on, we're going to be doing very well on our test scores. These are just an example of some of the new courses that are being offered at Hamilton High today. You know, we have found that there are a lot of jobs today that if you have computer skills, there's a job waiting for you really right out of high school or with very little post-secondary training. So these are just examples of some of the newer courses we're offering. AP. These AP exams are given to AP students, and this is a class you take as either a junior or a senior that is really taught on a college level. And at the end of the year, the students who take those classes will take a test. And if they score 3 or above, it's a 5, the top score is 5, you can get college credit for that course that you take. So you think about a student who's taking 4 or 5 of those courses and getting a 3 or more, those courses do not have to be taken in college. And think of the money those students can save. Let's talk a little bit as we get near the end here about technology. When we constructed these new buildings, we said to our architects, and we started designing these in 2006, 7, 8. We don't know what the future holds for technology, and no one knows. And certainly at that time, no one heard of the iPad and other wireless devices. So we said, when we build these buildings, let's make sure the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure in particular, can handle whatever technology comes along. So that's what we did. Just this year, and the latest thing now is wireless technology. Handheld devices that students can hold in their hands, actually. We have put wireless points in all of our schools, so we're completely ready for wireless technology and students bringing their own devices in or the devices that we give them. One of the main reasons for that, very shortly, the state tests, the very important state tests, all the students will be taking those tests on computer. There will be no more pencil and paper tests on state exams. So you have to have this kind of technology. In this school year that we're just starting, we're going to be introducing 3,000 new devices for students. And we're very, very lucky to have an outstanding director of technology. In fact, he's sitting right here, Zach Vanderveen, who's in charge of our whole program. This is going to enable our students, starting in grade school and elementary school, to use technology and become familiar with technology, because that's the wave of the future. There's a lot of going on in technology that it's so beneficial to students. Let me just give you one example. There's a term called flipping the classroom. And we have a program that enables students to be in contact with their teachers when the school day is over. So if I'm working at home with an algebra problem, and I just can't see how to do it, and mom and dad can't help me, they just can't see it either. You know, I can go on the internet, send a message to my teacher. He can then give me an example of how to finish the problem, and I'm on my way. So there's so much like that is coming on. That's really going to change education as we know it. We also have coaches, teachers in the building who are teaching all day, but still take time during their day to help other teachers with technology and to help students with technology. We also have 2 teachers who are full-time working with technology to help students and teachers and to get them accustomed to really the myriad of things that can be learned with our technology. I guess in closing, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you would have. We're very proud of our school district. We're very proud of our instruction. We're proud of our staff. We're proud of the facilities that the taxpayers have given them. And I think the students coming out of Hamilton as each year are going to be well prepared for whatever route they choose to go. So I want to thank you, and George and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Glenn, I'd just like to add
Sure.
one thing. When we built these buildings, our architects designed them to be energy efficient, which means saving the taxpayers, saving the district money on utilities and things like that. Natural lighting in the classrooms, so that if you have bright sun outside, then the lights automatically get dimmed. Features like that. And every year we go around and tour the buildings before school starts. And I dare say that you don't see any sign of abuse of the buildings by the students. I think they're very proud of what they have. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. All right, thank you.
You know, I guess I'm like a broken record, but everybody says, well, what's Hamilton got? What do they got to offer? They don't have this, they don't have that. Well, let me tell you something. Come to one of our meetings, and we got TV Hamilton taping it, and you'll find out what Hamilton's got. We probably have one of the finest school systems in the state. And the reason we have it is we have people who know what they're doing and who love their job. And I think that is really important to get back to the idea of our partners in crime with our group. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We're a small group. I just looked around. We got an average age, 4 of us are 9 year over. And we're here at every meeting. We meet the first and third Tuesdays of the month, and we do give to charitable organizations. We have gave countless numbers of money to the transportation department here at Partners in Crime. Here's a building that is over 100 years old. but it was taken care of until we had a flood, and we were closed for over a year. But here's facilities that you can't find anywhere around. And I mean, for a nominal fee, which is called a donation, you can belong to this group. You've got so many things that it has to offer. And I want to appreciate everybody who's been here today, and especially thank the two gentlemen who gave me an enlightening look on schools. I'll tell you one little thing. When I moved here in 1960, my daughter enrolled in the 4th grade in Lincoln School. Well, in Middletown, our whole family went to Lincoln School. Well, when Debbie walked in, sat down, there was a teacher up there with a tam on, and she looked around, and she says, I want all the kids who are new here, please stand up and give their name and where they're from. So my daughter stood up and said, what is your name? Debbie Cohen. Debbie Cohen. Debbie, where are you from? Middletown. Middletown? Now, wait a minute. You can't be Howard Cohen's daughter. Because I was a little bit of a character when I was young, a little bit. But that was so ironic that she come up, and then we had visitation, and we went, and she come up, put her arms around me, and she says, Howard, your wife has raised a terrific daughter. I just wanted to let that up. But gentlemen, thank you. And I know that we're going to leave here knowing that our school's in good hands.
Good, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Howard.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Anybody got anything in our group, got anything to say?
I got one question.
Sure.
Did you say 63% the state puts in on the school system?
Right.
Is this casino gonna affect that in any way? Are we gonna get any more money out of that? I mean, we're supposed to out here, but are we?
We're going to get a little. As you might have been reading, the casinos are not doing quite as well as they had thought they were going to. Yes, we will get some money. Will not be a significant amount of money given the whole budget, which is $75 million. So
Just like the lottery money, when they passed the lottery, that lottery money replaced other money that was going to the schools.
Yeah, the lottery, we got it.
Didn't give us any more money.
well, thank you, and we'll stay around if any of you'd like to talk to us afterwards. We'd love to meet with you and talk with you. So we'll be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.